Hi Year 8. Following on from last week's lesson about the perception of Islam, we're going to be looking at the different practices of Islam today. What I'd like you to do is watch the video about how to use the class notebook, and then I'd like you to jot your ideas down on the class notebook page about 3 things you either write every day, you do before going to bed, you say to people you love, or that you regularly buy at the supermarket. These things are your practices because they are regular habits. So if you could write down your ideas, pop your name on there and make sure that they're sensible so that we can all engage in them together. So pause the video now. So the title for today's lesson is What Practices Are There in Islam? So if you could write that down in your books with the date, what I'm hoping is that by the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to describe the things that Muslims do, that you'll be able to explain the practices of Muslims, and that you'll be able to evaluate what practices are important to Muslims. So pause the video now to get that written down. So folks, the next thing I'd like you to do is follow the hyperlink on this slide. If you can't open it from the slide, then I will have added a separate link on the assignments area for this lesson, and it will take you to a page about the 5 pillars, which it will describe to be Shahada, Salat, Zakat, Sawm and Hajj. Then there is a hyperlink on each of these words for you to click on, and it will take you to an information page about each of the pillars. So on the worksheet, which is called Year 8 Week Beginning the 1st of the 2nd 2021, try to answer as many of questions, at least 2 to 4 in each pillar within the space of 15 minutes. So, what is it? Why do they do it? An interesting fact about it. And then for the superstars out there, question number 4 is why is it important that they do it? So try to answer at least 2 of these questions, and if you can do all 4 questions for each pillar, and spend 15 minutes doing this, folks. So pause the video now and get on with that task for me, please. So folks, one of my favourite TV shows is Jamie Oliver's Friday Night Feast, and if you didn't know already, Jamie Oliver is a famous chef in the UK. A couple of weeks ago on the show, his guest was Amir Khan, who's a famous boxer if you didn't already know, and when he is helping Jamie to prepare a meal, he begins to talk about the fact that he practices zakat as a Muslim. So he talks about the idea of giving money to charity and supporting local communities which offer support and help to the vulnerable. So, I'd like you to think, if you asked Amir Khan to rate out of 10, where 1 is very unimportant and 10 is extremely important, how important practicing zakat is, what score do you think he would give you, and why do you think that? So, pause the video and jot your answers down in your book or on some paper if you haven't got it. Okay guys, so for the final task, I'm going to ask you to present your own creation of one of the 5 pillars. So, in order to make sure that we've got a wide variety of different pillars, I want you to think about your surname. So if your surname begins with A to E, the pillar you're going to be looking at is Shahada. If your surname begins with the letters F to J, your pillar is Salat. If your surname begins with the letters K to O, your pillar is Zakat. And if your surname begins with the letters P to U, your pillar is Sawm. And finally, if your surname begins with V to Z, then the pillar you're going to be looking at is Hajj. So folks, for the remaining 20 minutes of this lesson, what I would like you to do is use your research from today to create a pillar, so the one that I've assigned to you based on your surname, of Islam, featuring a comic strip. So this comic strip must give a character example which can explain what the pillar is, that uses the keywords from the research, that gives an example of this practice being done. I'd like you to explain why your character practices this pillar, and I'd also like you to make sure that you include illustrations as well as sentences which describe and explain this practice for me, please. So you can pause the video here and get on with that task for me. So once you've completed this comic strip and have a filled in worksheet, Please can you submit your work to the assignment which is called What Practices Are There in Islam by the end of the lesson. If you have any issues, if it takes you till the end of the day to get it submitted, that's absolutely fine. And can you make sure that you either hand draw and write your comic strip or you create a Word document. Either send a photo of your handwritten work or submit your Word document, please. Thank you very much, folks.